Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the King of Fighters collab that has come back to North America. So the King of Fighters collab is actually an old event that came around several years ago, but because of this long absence gap, it almost feels like a brand new event because every single card has received new evolutions, various buffs, along with new cards sprinkled in, and at the same time, it tries to update these cards for a 2020 meta. This does occur for the top rarity cards, which is not surprising, but the bottom rarity is still lacking quite horribly, and they also comprise 82.5% of the rolling pool. Furthermore, no cards have weapon assists, despite every card having at least 3 different evolutions, which does lower the value of those lower rarity cards, because generally speaking, lower rarity cards have poor weighted stats, which makes it more challenging to justify the resource investment to bring them up to, say, level 110. If they cap out at, say, 930 weighted stats, which is the norm for this event, you don't really want to spend all that resources for that because they may not necessarily function. And as a result, you may only use them in very highly niche or situational times, and that is problematic because, again, that is 82.5% of the rolling rate. But at the same time, there is a 17.5% chance to roll any of the 6-star cards, and the 6-star cards for the most part are all useful to a certain degree, with some of them obviously being quite outstanding. And as a general blanket statement, this event has wonderfully strong rainbow subs as well as a monofire powerhouse. But other than that, you're not necessarily getting that much value as a whole. So I feel like if you are truly gung-ho on this event, you should monster exchange for the top rarity cards, because the bottom rarity, none of them are really helpful. Like, I would not be happy rolling any of them. They're not going to bring anything to my monster box if you have even just a modestly developed one. They might be like interim or temporary subs, but at the same time, as soon as you roll in the Super Godfest and get a Pantheon card, they're going to basically replace these. They might have some niche or situational uses, but at the same time, a well-developed box is not going to benefit from rolling in this event. So like I said, if you are interested in these top rarity cards, monster exchanging will be your best course of action. So, due to the fact that every card has many different evolutions and many of them are actually just not helpful, some of them will be kind of glanced and skipped over a little quicker in the interest of time because there's actually a tremendous number of different cards in this event. So for the first 6-star card, Kaio has a reasonable base form. Like, it's a relatively generic offensive card with Devil Killer. Years ago, that would have been quite magical because he can take Devil Killer Latents, but at the same time, his new evolutions are much more dominating. This pixel form has potentially 4 effective skill boosts with this single turn of haste, but again, these are not the awakenings we necessarily want. He does have much stronger options available because, lo and behold, we come to a reincarnated form. So any reincarnated form or Revo evolution has the ability to use 8 latent slots, which means 4 killer latents, which means they get an extra 1.5 times personal damage against that respective spawn compared to cards that do not have the 7th and 8th latent slot. So in this evolution here, he has 777 combo, a Devil Killer, an Attacker Killer, and with their Super Awakenings, either Super Poison Resist or VDP. What you choose will depend on the dungeon you're playing through and what you have available. If you're playing through something like Shura Realm, VDP has a lower need. It's possible you can get away with like 1 VDP damage solution. This could be this individual here, or it could be someone else. You need to make that decision as well. But in addition to that, you have a large amount of base attack, so they can be a tremendous damage solution. And again, that Devil Killer does greatly propel their damage output against Devil spawns, which are tremendously common in the vast majority of dungeons. And even though Shura Realm is heavily machine-based, a single Devil Killer on a highly offensive card is actually meaningful because there is a silly Devil floor on floor like 14 or 15 that has half a billion defense and 1.7 billion health. It takes a stupendous amount of damage to kill. This can be a wonderful damage solution for that case, and that is definitely meaningful. He still can stick on Machine Killer Latents and still deal meaningful damage against the vast majority of spawns at the same time, but in addition to that, his active skill is a wonderful kill board. You get a bicolor board of only fire and hard orbs, so easy to solve, easy to do big damage, and you get 2 times RCV and 2 times attack, so you can overwrite any nasty debuffs or help guarantee that will kill a single floor. So, powerful active skill built in all around. In terms of their leader skill, they need to match 2 or more fire combos for increasing their combo count by +1. They get damage reduction of 7 or more combos and damage reduction of 2+ fire combos. If you don't match 2+ fire combos, you only have 1 source of damage reduction, which is 35%, say twice, 57.75%. No health multiplier. You're going to be in danger of dying to most hard-hitting stuff in the game. Of course, with 2 fire combos, you can survive because you have 82+% damage reduction. That's more than 4 times effective health. That will be fine, but that's going to be wildly inconsistent. And we do have many strong fire leaders at the same time, so I feel like if you have a modestly deep monster box, you won't be using him as a leader. At the same time, if you feel like you're not going to get enough value out of this reincarnated form, pursuing their second pixel or second player color pixel form is meaningful. Because in this form here, they have respectable VDP damage. They have 2 VDPs, 2 7 combos, and a Devil Killer. So less damage against all spawns when you're just comboing naturally, but you still have that Devil Killing potential. You do have 1 less killer latent, but your active skill is changed for the better, perhaps, because it's a 3-turn cooldown, and it's going to function kind of like Halloween Bastet, who I love so much, because it has 1 turn of 1.5 times RCV, 1.5 times orb movement time, so overriding any of those debuffs. That alone would have been actually just a reasonable active skill right there, but they go a step further by giving us 2 fire and 2 heart orbs. That is meaningful because we can at least have a much greater chance to deal meaningful damage, as well as being able to heal at the same time to benefit from that RCV boost. Powerful active skill all around, but you can abuse it further by inheriting something on top of it. If you inherit something like the Cursed Red Key, which gives you 2 turns of haste on a reasonably short cooldown on top of him, you could use that on turn 1 to make him, instead of a 2, into a 4 effective skill boost card. Pretty good. It's actually 5 because of the skill boost in that Cursed Key as well, if I'm not mistaken. Or does it have? I don't know. Either way, you're allowed to add in delays or haste onto this card here because of the low cooldown to increase your effective skill boost to ensure everyone else charges up. And even if that active skill you inherited is not very useful for your team overall, you can always just spam this base skill and you're never going to be disappointed with the outcome on that active skill. So taking these 2 evolutions into consideration, if you're unsure if you can truly benefit from the reincarnated form or you don't want to commit to that because it's irreversible, stick with the second player color here, and that can be changed at a future time if you find yourself not utilizing them that well. Next is Terry Bogard, and Terry is unfortunately not that great by comparison. In their first evolved form, they have super blind resist and potentially 10 combo and a 7 combo. So reasonable amounts of personal damage, but at the same time, it's only 10 times personal damage. 777 combo is 8. It's not that much higher by comparison. And while super blind resist is helpful, they only have 2 skill boosts, so it's going to be harder to transform. If you're running things like Gillian, this is a card that's not going to replace anyone on the team because the damage output is not high enough to really justify it. And at the same time, 10 combos can be inconsistent if you don't have a bonus combo leader skill, which many fire leaders don't have in order to hit that 10 combos on a regular basis. So that can be problematic, but at least their active skill is helpful. They create a column of fire and a column of light orbs, as well as fully clearing all bind and awoken binds. So it is a useful active skill, and I always like having my bind clearing solutions come with an orb changing component, because with an orb changing component, it's never going to be a bad active. Even if you don't encounter those binding spawns, you at least get some orbs to deal damage to any respective spawn. But at the same time, I feel like this is a card that with so many strong subs available, it's going to be hard to stand out. As a leader, your effective health is far too low. You're going to be tremendously fragile. It's not going to be that magical of a leader as a whole. For their next pixel form, I'm not that happy with it either. Like, you get some Fire Rose, you get a tiny amount of VDP damage, some team health. It's not really that awe-inspiring awakenings. You lost that super blind resist, which was actually meaningful to help justify the lack of skill boost. So I would not pursue this pixel evolution whatsoever. His first evolved form was much stronger. For this second player color, you have too many L's. One L awakening is nice to have for utility. Without it, you're going to have some problems because you're just eating into those awakening slots. They could have been something else more meaningful, which it sadly is not. You still have modestly strong VDP damage of 777 combo and 2 VDPs, but I'm still a bit more inclined to take this one just because the super blind is far more utility, and I do enjoy this active skill. By comparison, the active skill in the second player color is Overkill. It's 14 turn cooldown, which is quite long, but it only for 1 turn you get reduce unable to match orb effects by 1 turn, and Awoken Bind clears by a single turn. 1 turn clearing is probably not going to make that much of a difference. And then you get 6 times RCV and 6 times attack, which is complete overkill. 6 times RCV is way too high. You don't need that much RCV. You're going to heal to max health no matter what. Even with 2 or 3 times, you probably could have healed to full health. 6 times is grossly overkill. That just increases the cooldown. 6 times attack, it is nice. It is a large attack multiplier, but it only lasts for 1 turn, and it's probably overkill anyways. You can't exceed damage cap, and there are only spawns in really Shura Realm that are so tanky it takes multiple turns to kill. And because it takes multiple turns to kill, you're going to need multiple turns of burst. It's just what's going to be needed. So I feel like this active skill is completely overkill, and if I were to get Terry, I would just retain them in their first evolution form. I feel like it has much more value as a whole. For Rio, I don't know how to say any of these names, but for this individual here, in their base form, well, in their first evolve form, they have super poison resist. They have a 4-turn base cooldown, so it's easier to inherit something over top of it. They could get 4 effective skill boosts, but at the same time, I feel like they're just not that magical of a card anyways. Right now, one of the more dominating mono light leaders is immune to poison orb matching. That's the light key hero, and that kind of nullifies a lot of their effectiveness, so to speak. And while you can generate a single row of light orbs, it may or may not be quite that helpful because you're not providing extra utility alongside of it. No Skyfalls is really a penalty to keep the cooldown lower. So I feel like for the most part, he'll be functioning as a farming solution, because when you're farming content, you want to do it as fast, efficiently, and as mindlessly as possible. So with that in mind, creating a row of light orbs at the top is easy to swipe. No Skyfalls makes it so it's faster to clear, just easier overall. So I feel like that's where he's going to be utilized for the most part here, because as a leader, you need to have 4 or more colors, and then you only get damage reduction. Well, you always get damage reduction whenever you match 4 or more colors, and you also get damage reduction when you match 6 or more connected light orbs. It's only 25% for each metric, so it is quite low, and if you fail to match one of them, which is most likely going to be your 6 light orbs, you only have 43.75% damage reduction. Very fragile. You have less than 2 times effective health. You're probably going to go splat. Not the greatest overall in that regards. For their pixel form, they have 2 co-op boosts, so naturally they're only going to be helpful in co-op to be used as a sub. But they do come with a unique active skill. It creates a row of light and a row of light at the top and a row of light at the bottom. So 12 light orbs in total. And double row makers are reasonably rare. There are not too many of them. There was a point in time where we had 2 of them we could farm from collab event dungeons back to back, basically. So I got all of mine there. But if you're a newer player who wasn't playing at that time, you won't have many double row makers. And I find having at least one is tremendously helpful when farming content, because the idea is you use a mono board changer. So say you make Zeus Dios, all wood orbs. Then you follow up with a double row maker that does not make wood orbs. You now have a split of 18 wood, 12 of another orb. And that is so easy to rearrange to any pattern you want. You can make a 7 combo VDP. You can make many combos. You can make rows. You have lots of options is the idea. And it's that convenience of always knowing exactly what you're going to get that is meaningful when you're farming through content. Because if you're going to play something over and over again, you want the certainty that it's going to have the same result. You don't like gambling at that point in time. So for that reason alone, I feel like this form possibly will be the most popular one to pursue, just because double row makers are becoming a bit more rare, so to speak. Their second player color has no Skyfalls once again. They create that row of light at the top and +2 combos. I feel like the double row maker is still more exciting, as well as this single row maker with just no Skyfalls. The +2 combos is nice, but probably unnecessary. Adds many turns to the cooldown. It's 9 turns instead of 4 turns. And with 4 turns, you can use something like, say, Fortress Dragon on the team. Use him on floor 1, Fortress Dragon. After, you get 3 haste, match the row, you're ready for the second floor. Lots of interesting things you can do with very low cooldowns, which you cannot achieve with 9. So, generally speaking, I feel like double row maker should be the one you pursue in most cases, but if you have so many of those, probably their first evolution form. Now we come to a tremendously exciting and powerful card. So, Leona returns, and she has her 4 killer awakenings. She has Devil, Dragon, God, and Machine Killers naturally. So 3 times personal damage against each spawn, multiplying if they overlap. She also has 2 skill charges and a 7 combo super awakening. So she has meaningful amounts of damage. And her active skill is 2 turns of damage absorption void. So basically a Fujin style active skill, which is always helpful to have in every type of content nowadays. And then you also get 2 turns of 3 times attack for attacker and devil types. So you get the damage absorb void to pierce to ignore that absorption effect, and you also get the burst to ensure they die. Wonderfully helpful overall. And this is still a reasonably strong form, but at the same time, her new reincarnated form is actually superior and is the one you should be pursuing in the vast majority of cases, even though you can use skill charge to quickly hasten this active skill. For her first pixel form, she has strong damage against physical spawns, but this is just inferior as a whole. Like, we don't want to, like, usually lower rarity cards often become like killer solutions for one specific typing. A top rarity card usually doesn't want to become that because they usually should be offering more, which is the case here because if we scroll further down, it gets better and better. Not this pixel form. Like, this pixel form has 2 turns of void damage void. So, like, that is kind of cool, but at the same time, if you use VDP latents, you have like things like Dire or Algae, just things with much lower cooldowns. You can access it much more easily than 25 turn cooldown. And at the same time, it means you are taking away from her new reincarnated form, which is tremendously powerful because this form here still retains the same 4 killers. And those are 4 popular killer typings. The vast majority of dangerous spawns have those typings. So you have immediately 3 times personal damage against them. You have 1 skill charge still, but you have a 10 combo and a 7 combo awakening. So you're kind of like, A10's like levels, because A10 has tons of killers and 7 and 10 combo. But what A10 suffers from is having a weaker active skill and much less base attack. Leona's reincarnated form has huge amounts of attack. She's going to hit nearly, or she will exceed 4k attack. That is a tremendous amount of damage output when you factor in the fact that she has 10 and 7 combo. That right away is 10 times personal damage. Each time you line up one of those typings is 3 times more. So you can go to 30 times or 90 times personal damage. But the fun doesn't stop there. You have 8 latent slots, so you can take Devil, God, or Physical Killer latents and deal even more damage against those types of spawns. Or you can carry a super resist latent if you want and still have space for 1 killer. You have flexibility with 8 latent slots. So she's a tremendous damage solution, but she also has a powerful active skill, especially if you're playing through content like Shura Realm, because this active skill cuts your health by half. No big deal. Teams will heal back up anyways. It's to keep the cooldown lower, which is helped by skill charge. You also have 2 turns of color absorb void and 2 turns of 3 times attack for attacker and devil types. So you have burst, you have a way to overcome color absorb, and color absorb is relevant in Shura Realm because the final floor will absorb 1 color for 10 turns. You don't know what the color is, but it's absorbing for 10 turns. And giving you the burst, giving you the color absorb, helps ensure you can kill them in 2 turns. So it's just a wonderfully well-designed active for current endgame content. And like I said, if you are playing rainbow teams and you cannot use A10 as a damage solution due to the different typings, and you're wanting to use things like, say, for Halloween Sonia Gran or for Lucia, who can benefit from devil types, Reincarnated Leona will be a tremendously powerful sub, and monster exchanging for her is a worthy venture. Now we come to Mai, and Mai is nowhere near as powerful by comparison. In her first form, she has many TPAs, she has 7 combo and 10 combo, so she could be a potential damage solution, but her attack stat is too low. It's not that high. 2300 is not that high. But then you look, ooh, she has 2 enhanced heart orb awakenings, but only 532 RCV. So she can provide modest amounts of damage, especially if you hit TPAs and hit 10 combos. She also can provide modest amounts of healing, but she's not the best at either metric. And being kind of like a Jill of all trades, master of none, is not what you want to be in pad. Like, it's just not enough. And her active skill, while it is a low base cooldown, is okay. It's not as magical as the other lower base cooldowns we've seen in this event. You do get to have a chance of enhanced orbs falling down. Okay, cool. You also get to create 3 fire orbs at random. You can, of course, abuse like inheriting another haste or delay on top to get more effective skill boost, but at the same time, I feel like she's not like accomplishing as much as other cards like that you could possibly bring as subs. Like, she's a reasonable damage solution, reasonable healing solution, but she's not the best at either one of them. And she doesn't have VDP either, so she can't pierce through void, so those offensive awakenings do go to waste at the same time. So as a whole, I think she's an okay card, but she is nothing special whatsoever. In her first pixel form, She, again, is that Jill of all trades, master of none. She does a bit of everything. She has 4 skill boosts, she has a cloud resist, she has co-op boost, she has team health, team RCV, a VDP, 10 combo. She's got basically every kind of awakening possible, but that lack of direction and specialization will hinder her. She's not going to outpace other options, and she actually does have reasonably low weighted stats at the same time. So she's not going to be that great at anything whatsoever. Like, unless you're using her in co-op and you can abuse the higher weighted stats, maybe. But then again, if you're playing 2-player co-op, you don't get that 10 combo, so you just lost your damage output anyways. Just not a well-designed card overall, and she still has that enhanced orbs more likely to fall down. It's not that great of a mechanic. You do get a tricolor board, but there's no hearts. Nothing special either. In this second pixel form, she does get more enhanced Heart Orb Awakening, so she does become a much more reliable healing solution. She's not Amaterasu's level, but at least you have 4 enhanced Heart Orbs. You can make that much more workable than 2 at least. And damage output, she has a 10 combo, so some damage output still. She does have a VDP, she does have a tape. Like, it's reasonable as a whole, but at the same time, like, her active skill is kind of unusual. It will help you in certain cases, but not in that much content. Her active skill gives you 100% defense break for 3 turns. So right now, the places where high defense runs rampant are Sure Realm, which is probably not somewhere you want to bring her, or Training Arena 2. And Training Arena 2 just has large health, large defense, and large attack values. That's all they do. So bypassing their defense for 3 turns means you can flub a board or take a turn to stall and still retain that defense break aspect. Possible usage there, but I feel like this form has a bit more value in that sense because you have that flexibility or a bit stronger healing solution, unless you feel like you can make her first evolve form work to abuse the low base cooldown to get more effective skill boosts if that's your goal overall. Next is Iori, and this individual here is another tremendously powerful Rainbow sub. Rainbow is getting lots of love in this event. So in their first form, they get super jammer resist, they have some damage output, they have a skill charge, they can create a rainbow board without hearts. Like, it's an okay form, but their evolved forms are much stronger, and it's much better to pursue and focus on those aspects. For their first pixel form, they do lots of damage against attackers, and like I mentioned beforehand, a top rarity card that's strong against a certain niche typing, not so great. Unless it's machine typing. It's the only one that we really would care about, but that's not the case here. Attacker typing is so niche, and we have probably other attacker killer solutions within our monster box that's not worth pursuing or necessarily looking at. In their reincarnated form, woof, lots of excitement. So in their reincarnated form, they have a 10 combo, 7 combo, and another 7 combo. So that's 20 times personal damage against all spawns. Doesn't care what typing you are. 20 times personal damage. You also can take Devil, God, or Physical Killer latents, and you have 8 latent slots, so you have much more damage output there. You also have a tremendously high attack stat, and a couple of Dark Orb enhances, so if your team is heavily Dark-based, more damage across the board. Not a bad thing. It's harder to measure how much extra damage you get, but it will be present. But you have huge amounts of base attack with high damage or offensive awakening, so meaningful damage output there. You do have a skill charge as well, and you are able to hasten up your full rainbow board, including Heart Orbs. That also provides 3 times movement time and 3 times attack. So with a 13 turn cooldown with skill charge, you can get that up in half the time. So you're able to access this wonderful burst and rainbow board on a regular basis. You can overwrite time debuffs. You can help ensure you bypass tanky spawns. Like I mentioned before in Sure Realm, that devil spawn is terribly tanky. You can kind of bypass it by giving yourself this big burst that will be ready once again relatively soon. Helpful as a whole, strong against the final floors where you need to hit damage cap on multiple cards to really chunk down the Manoa's health. It's another burst built into a board changer that's available regularly. Just be aware you only have 1 skill boost, which will definitely be a downfall. So it means that you can't use too many transforming cards in your team. This 1 skill boost aspect is a problem also, or low skill boost aspect is problematic whenever you're trying to run anything that wants to transform. Because generally speaking, cards that transform tend to be tremendously powerful afterwards, and bringing cards that don't have skill boosts is basically saying I'm going to use them or a transforming card. But thankfully this form here is definitely able to keep abreast against transforming options. If you don't like them as a sub, their leader skill is reasonable if you can find lots of attackers, and you pair with someone like Fasca because you need to have all 5 colors. But when you have all 5 colors, you get auto follow attack and tremendous amounts of damage reduction. But at the same time, if you don't have all 5 colors, you're going to get splat and nothing is going to really save you because you have only 1 times health otherwise. But at the same time, with that bigger board, you can compensate for it, but as well as bigger boards are punished in Sure Realm and Alt Arena 4. But hey, you can work around it. Just remember, you need to hit that 10 combo, so using them on like Sonya Grant, Halloween Sonya Grant or Lucia teams is meaningful. For the year 4th player color, it's just an okay card. It's reasonable actually, but I feel like it's just heavily surpassed by their reincarnated form because it's such high amounts of damage output against all spawns. In this form here, you have lots of VDPs, lots of rows, 4 skill boosts, low base cooldown, but the low base cooldown gives you 3 turns of no Skyfalls. You do get 4 Dark Orbs, which is cool, but if you're looping it, you're never going to have Skyfalls, which can be a little annoying. Same ideas apply. You can utilize a delay or haste as an inherit and give them more effective skill boosts as a whole. Can be something to look into, but at the same time, if you are serious about playing rainbow cards or rainbow teams, their reincarnated form will be powerful. Now, one thing I want to say is that the Demon Slayer collab is available in JP. There is no guarantee we're going to have it come to North America. And cards like Leona and Yuri will be powerful subs for some of the leaders that are available there. But at the same time, there's no guarantee it will come. So monster exchanging for them, if you're truly on the fence about it and you're thinking maybe Demon Slayer will come, wait till the end of the event. Maybe things get announced. But at the same time, if you do trade for them, you should make sure that you actually can use them right now and take advantage of them because they are strong and meaningful in their own right. Next is Geese Howard. I don't know if he honks like a geese or not, but he is one of the new 7 or 6-star cards in this event. And in their base form, they have no skill boost. So, like I said before, that argument of I'm going to bring a card that transforms or I'm going to bring a card with no skill boost comes into play here. And in the case here, he is not going to be necessarily something you want to bring over a transforming card because he has far too many attacker killers. Like, that's an excessive amount of attacker killers. Like, you don't need that much, especially for such a niche card. And you also have double 7 combo, triple 7 combo of your Super Awakens and a VDP. It's just excessive, not enough attack response to take advantage of it. If this was machine killers, it'd be a different story. We could, like, you know, abuse that in Sure Realm and that would be cool, but that's not the case. With their active skill, they give 1.5 times attack for devils and changing a column to light and locking all orbs. So you counter spinners, get some burst damage, get more orbs for your activation. But it's their leader skill that actually keeps them interesting because their leader skill has the same requirements as their evolved form, but gives different benefits. Well, different benefits. They have similar activation requirements. They both need to use devils, and they want to be light based because they want to match 5 or more light orbs. And in his base form, you get plus 2 seconds of orb movement time and auto follow attack damage when matching those 5 or more light orbs. So that is definitely a reasonably strong leader skill. And when you pair it with his evolved form, you get some RCV and you get 50% damage reduction. In fact, your team is actually 3 times health, 270 times attack, 1.5 times RCV, 50% damage reduction. That's actually solid multipliers when you match 5 or more connected light orbs. You also get plus 2 combos with those 5 or more light orbs, plus 2 seconds of orb movement time, and auto follow attack. These are solid multipliers and a reasonable active skill, and their evolved form actually has meaningful damage. They have a 10 combo, double 7 combo. They actually can hit tremendously hard. They are having some wasteful awakenings with their L's. They have 0 skill boosts as well, so you're obviously not bringing transforming cards as subs, but you actually have meaningful damage from one of your leaders and pretty decent damage from the other one, and solid multipliers. The biggest drawback is how hard it is to roll him. He is a top rarity card that is a strong leader, but he's not as strong as other available options, so he may not necessarily be monster exchanged for. I think he is good, but is he worth to be monster exchanged for? Probably not, because power creep will push them down, as leaders don't last long in terms of power creep. It's just the way of pad. So that is going to happen. So even if you do roll him, you might have a tough time finding friends because you oftentimes want to make this evolved form because these are nicer awakenings compared to these ones here. You have the same active skill as well. So if you do make this evolved form, you might be hard pressed to find a friend with the base form. It's just going to be a limiting factor, and to a certain extent that is kind of a reflection of how strong a leader is in this current day and age. How easy is it to find friends because people will monster exchange from them or roll harder for them, that sort of idea, or just put them up because they want to use them. So I feel like that is definitely one limiting factor, just finding friends, which actually will be something I'll save for the next card as well. For their pixel form, nowhere near as magical and exciting compared to their first evolved form. I think the first evolved form with their leadership potential is much more interesting compared to this pixel form. Like, it's a 3-turn cooldown, locks all orbs, counter spinners, gives you unable to match orb effects cleared by 5 turns. But again, you have low skill boost, not that great awakenings. Like, it's not a sub you want to use, and as a leader, stronger in the other forms because you're stuck with only pixel evolutions. For their second player color, Similar thought process, except you have 2 skill charges. But at the same time, bypassing damage voids is not that necessary, I feel. With the VDP latent becoming more accessible because people can clear Alternate 4 more often now, or with Pad Pass, you have ways to get VDP latents. Solving void spawns by just matching is easier than using an active skill. And you also have active skills like Dire or Algae who are just much shorter as well. So I feel like Pixel Geese Howard is not going to be that magical. Again, their base and first evolve form are the more exciting ones because it is still a strong leader overall. It will definitely clear a lot of content, just again, finding friends might be hard. For the last 6-star card, Yashiro has in their base form 3 healer killers, which is excessive. It's not really necessary, so to speak, but at the same time, they're following a similar template to Geese Howard in the sense that their base form pairs well with their evolved form. So let's take a look at kind of both of them at the same time. So for their base form, they need to use physical type spawns, which is the case for both of them. And they both have to match fire and wood orbs. But when they match fire and wood orbs, at least for their pairing, they get 2.25 times health, 324 times attack, 2.25 times RC, 57.75% damage reduction. And you don't have to transform. You have a similar requirement to Grigory, but you don't need to transform. That definitely opens up sub and team building compositions because you're not as restrictive to having to transform right away. But at the same time, you also get extra zest that Grigory doesn't have. Your attack multiplier is lower, but you also get to have... Did I even write it down here? No, I don't. Just read it here quickly. You also get auto follow attack, which what Grigory had. You have damage reduction, and damage reduction is superior to flat health and RCV because you can block and resist gravities. And when you pair with their evolved form, you also get to have +2 combos. So you get plus combos, you get damage reduction, and it's just a more meaningful leader skill as a whole. But at the same time, you're still restricted to a physical type spawns or physical type subs, and there are not that many great ones available. And Grigory didn't last that long, and even though this leader skill I feel is a bit stronger, it's not going to be that great as a whole still. Like, Grigory didn't get that much usage. I don't feel like these cards will get that much usage either, despite being quite helpful. But at the same time, their evolved form is actually a strong sub, so it's actually not a bad fallback plan, because in their evolved form they have 777 combo with the VDP, so meaningful damage. They have 3 skill boosts, not bad. 5-turn cooldown. I like short cooldowns, but it's a 5-turn cooldown with a powerful effect. You get 3 fire and wood orbs, so there's your activation, but you also get to reduce unable to match orb effects by 5 turns and awoken binds by 5 turns. So 2 wonderfully useful mechanics tied to an orb changer. Meaningful active skill. Can definitely be a sub on various teams because it's damage with utility. Useful card all around. And remember, pairing with their base form gives you a reasonably strong leader skill, but again, the hard part is going to be finding friends to do so. In terms of their pixel evolutions, they're just uninspiring and not that exciting. You get a damage reduction shield, you have some skill boosts, you have VDP, you have some 7 combos. Not gonna surpass what this this evolved form does. That's a powerful active skill. That's an active skill that's going to be used on a variety of situations. Damage reduction with tricolored board, not as exciting. Their second player color, Pixel Evolution, they have 5 turns of orbs appearing locked. So you could technically counter spinners of that to a certain extent and reduce all bind and awoken binds. But at the same time, it doesn't solve your spinner problem right now. It solves it possibly in the future if enough orbs fall down. Not so great, I feel, in that reason. And bind and awoken bind clear is helpful, but the secondary effect is so situational that it's not going to necessarily pan out being helpful as a whole. So I would stick with their evolved form for the, like, sub and leadership potential, and their base form if you want to have a friend or you want to have friends use you. Oh, I was mistaken. There's one more 6-star card. This event is so large. But the last 6-star card is Chris. And Chris is a little special. You cannot monster exchange for Chris, but you can directly purchase him with IAPing because they are an orb skin card. Cool. For their base form, they're actually a wonderfully strong sub because they have 777 combo, they have 3 skill boosts, and they have super blind resist. That's pretty nice. You have a nice amount of utility, you can help other people transform, you block blinds, and you have meaningful damage output. Quite helpful all around, and can take any killer latent if you needed to. But their active skill is a 3-turn cooldown. Right away you think, hey, I can inherit delay or haste. Now Chris can become a many more effective skill boost card. Meaningful right there. But this active skill is helpful. You get 3 dark orbs, and then you get orb movement time by +2 seconds. So This is not going to be an active skill you'll be upset to use on a regular basis. You could inherit, like, say, Amatsu's Loot. You get, like, that extra haste, you get the extra skill boost, but you're not necessarily going to be using that active, but you can just abuse Chris's base skill. Wonderfully helpful sub all around. And as a whole, I feel like this would be a form to pursue for many players, but their transforming evolution will be competing for your attention. Because this is their transforming evolution. So before I scroll down, they look like they have reasonable awakenings. Like, these are a full 9 awakenings. Not bad. But the problem is you have a 35 turn cooldown to transform. That sets a new record for North American cards. We never have anyone needing this many turns to transform. But thankfully, you still have a meaningful leader skill before you transform. You have 1.5 times health for balance types. You have modest damage output, you have some RCV, and you have some damage reduction when matching 7 or more connected Dark Orbs. Not bad, but when you transform, oh boy do you get so strong. You get 2 VDPs and lots of killers for 2 devil, 2 attack, or 2 physical. The killers may not necessarily be what you need to have for certain spawns, but it's not bad to have. You can use any killers as well for your latents, but their active skill is a 1-turn cooldown that makes 6 Dark Orbs. That is so obnoxiously overtuned. It's like outrageous. Like, you need 7 Dark Orbs to trigger your leader skill. You get 6 of them every single turn. It's going to be quite easy to play once you transform. And when you do transform, your damage output is drastically improved. And you still need balance types, which means you want to pair with Nell, because Nell gives you 7x6 and she also uses balance types. But the 7x6 is key because you need to match 7 or more Dark Orbs. And matching a row on 6x5 does not match 7, it matches 6. So at least on 7x6, you get the row and tap into all that extra damage across the field. But your multipliers are pretty sky high. You have 3 times health, 405 times attack, 3 times RCV, and 51.25% damage reduction. Those are tremendously high multipliers. You have a huge amount of effective health. You basically have 6 times health because you have 51% damage reduction and 3 times health already. You can survive so much punishment. You can survive gravities and just large hits as a whole. You can heal up with relative ease. You can dish out stupendous amounts of damage. You always have 6 Dark Orbs every turn. And Nell, once she transforms, gives you Column of Heart, Column of Dark, damage absorption counter. So much value packed into your leaders. But the biggest issue is you need 35 turns to transform. You have no skill boost before you transform, unlike key heroes. You need to use a 7x6 board of Nell, and 7x6 is punished in Sure Realm and Altarina 4 because they will have spawns that give extra annoying mechanics. So if you can plan around them, it's definitely doable. I've cleared Altarina 4 of 7x6, and it can be annoying, but is definitely doable, and if it's the first time you're going to clear it, it is definitely meaningful. And of course, being restricted to balance types is a problem. But at the same time, once you do manage to transform, you'll always activate. You have auto follow-up attack damage as well. You have bonus orb movement time. Like, there are so many wonderful things going on with this team. It's just a matter of getting to that transforming state. So, which Chris should you make? If you need a generically helpful sub, use his base form. But if you feel like you can take advantage of this transform state, you can grind long enough to transform, they will be a tremendously powerful leader when paired with Nell. Pixel Chris is cool. They have a 1-turn base cooldown, but he's not outpacing the other options. And he also has 0 skill boosts. He does have lots of offensive awakenings and some team damage, but at the same time, this is not what's going to be the form we want to pursue. And their other Pixel forms, similar idea, no skill boosts. Like, as a sub for transforming, you're going to be sad. If you're going to bring no skill boost, why not just bring their transforming form, and then eventually you become a powerhouse? Why not? And that is the orb skin you can directly purchase alongside of them. So now we come to the 5-star cards. Wow, there's so many cards in this event, lots to talk about. Thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, the 5-star cards are much more underwhelming. They have terribly low weighted stats, they have no weapon assist, and they comprise 82.5% of the rolling pool. Not necessarily things you want to hear, and because of these low weighted stats and no weapon assist, it's much harder to find a usage as a sub for them. They might get inherited for their unique active skill potentially, but they don't give awakenings. And as a sub, they're mostly going to be like killer damage solutions. Even if they have offensive awakenings, it's not going to be enough because their weighted stats is so low, and the resource investment is not going to be worth it. And base Shermie actually kind of starts out reasonably strong. You have 777 combo, super blind resist, physical killer, physical killer. Like, you could do meaningful damage against physical spawns, and you have a delay of 3 turns. And those 3 turns of delay can be effective skill boosts, but at the same time, you do have 0 So you're only a 3 effective skill boost card. And these weighted stats are so abysmally low. Like, even though you have 777 combo, you have low base attack. It's not going to be that worth it. And remember, you have to invest a ton of monster experience for 1,000 weighted stats. It's not going to be worth it. I would only really truly invest in the cards that have killers and don't have any other killer solutions. In their second player color, they get worse. They have Super Jammer instead of Super Blind. Like, there's no reason to make this form over the other one. For her Pixel form, you have 3 skill boosts, you have a bit of VDP damage, you get the top row to light and the bottom row to heal orbs. So, double row making. Double row making is always helpful. So, as a whole, I would just pursue this form because a double row maker is going to be infinitely more helpful than a lackluster damage solution. It's not really a damage solution, it's just a card that does some damage. Double row making, as explained earlier, is valuable because you use it in conjunction with a mono board changer, like say a Zeus Dios board. You have all wood, and then you use double row maker. In this case, you'd have 18 wood, 6 light, 6 heart, easy to rearrange to any pattern you want, meaningful amounts of damage. Next is Benimaru, and they don't offer much except for really cool hair in their base form. Their second player color, less cool hair. I like the yellow hair more than gray hair. Their pixel form is the form you're going to want to make because their pixel form gives you triple balance killer. And again, they have reasonably high action. They actually have pretty solid base attack actually for a 5-star card. So their value is going to be, I do lots of damage to balance type spawns. You're not going to use them that often, but when you do, it does meaningful amounts of damage. That's basically going to be the gist for many of these 5-star cards. Andy Bogard is terrible. Like, these are awakenings that don't do anything. In his second player color, you get super blind resist, but at the same time, you're not going to want to bring this guy into dungeons that you need blind resist for. Anything that needs blind resist probably has reasonable amounts of mechanics. This is not something you want to bring. Their active skill gives you a 4 elemental board, which is not that helpful. They get enhanced orbs falling down. Like, it's easily replaceable. You'll replace them with something else. In their pixel form, they get passive damage from mono water teams, but you're not going to be doing that much. Maybe their active skill is unique. It is unique. You get the top row is converted to water, and you get 4 fire, light, and heart orbs from non-water orbs. So it's a weird rainbowy, watery active skill. I can't think of a situation where it could be helpful, but maybe it will be, but I don't think it's that great. I don't think they're going to really accomplish much. As a leader, they do have multiplier numbers, but it's 5 orb 1 enhanced, which is so unreliable because if you don't have an enhanced orb, you don't trigger it, and you really have to match water, because if you don't match the water, you're not, only water cards are gaining the bonus damage. It's not like Algae where it's match any L, anything works. No, it doesn't work that way. 5 orb 1 enhanced is a terrible mechanic. Yuri, I don't know what you do. You don't do anything. You don't do anything in this form either. Like, you think, oh, I have lots of enhanced heart orbs, but you have such low RCV that, like, there's no real point in using you as a whole. Pixel form, similarly, they're not accomplishing much. You get 100% damage reduction for 1 turn. Maybe you might cheese 1 execute hit, but I don't think there's any dungeons where that cheesing will necessarily work anymore. So, just a bad card to have all around. Athena has nothing in this form. Like, you have some skill boosts, tiny bit of TPA, no attack, so it's not going to happen. No. In her second player color, she has 4 different killer awakenings, and she can get 2 devil killers. So she can be a devil killing solution because she can take devil killer latents. Whether or not this is going to be something you want to make is going to be up to you because her base attack is quite low. It's going to require a large amount of investment to make her have meaningful damage. But at the same time, she does get a little bit of extra zest compared to other devil killing solutions because if that devil spawn has an attacker, physical, or balance type, her damage output goes up by another 3 times. And then it becomes meaningful. So whether or not you want to invest in her will come down to, do you have other devil killing solutions, and do you have the resources to spend or waste on a card that may or may not be used that often? For her pixel form, you get 4 skill boosts, and the potential to do more damage against devils. But the problem is you have to have 7 combos and a VDP. So your damage ceiling is higher against devils, but at the same time, if they have any overlapping typing, you'll be fine. And you have the benefit of just matching 1 combo of any shape or pattern and getting damage. You don't have to rely on hitting 7 or the VDP, which does give you an easier time of farming or playing ranking dungeons. On the other hand, you do get 1 turn of damage absorption on a 7-turn cooldown, so if you have no color absorption, not damage, sorry, color absorption. If you have no color absorption solution, you could use her as an interim card because at least it does provide some skill boosts. Chin doesn't accomplish anything. You have terribly low attack. You have some offensive awakenings. Not enough killers of one type. Not going to happen. In their second player color, they have co-op boosts, so they do get some co-op. They do get stat increases. They could have some TPA damage, but at the same time, there's nowhere to use them on. Like, there's no wood team that really uses TPA, so that does not change in co-op. In their pixel form, they do have solid offensive awakenings, but their weighted stats are terrible. Their attack is terrible. They have no skill boost, no skill balances, no time extend, no utility, no purpose whatsoever. King, in his base form, has 3 attacker killers and the ability to use attacker killer latents. So, a wonderfully strong damage solution against attackers. One of the stronger ones available because you can use the latents, but again, it does require some investment, and if you already have another attacker killer solution that's working well enough, you may not need to invest in King, like limit breaking, super awakening, leveling up to 110 to bring that terrible attack stat up. That's his main drawback. Second player color, you do have, like I said, some offensive awakenings, but I'd rather just have straight killer damage, much more unique compared to a mediocre to terrible damage solution. Pixel form has killers of different types. I'd rather just be super good at killing attackers. I don't care about the other spawns. It's hard to get them to line up. If they don't line up, not so great. Kim, in their base form, has 777 combo and actually reasonable attack stat. But at the same time, like, it's a damage solution that doesn't provide much value overall. Like, it's not something you want to bring over, say, like something like Zila, for instance. In their second player color, they get 10 combo. They have a tackle above 80%. They have TPAs or super poison resist. Like, again, this is a sub that you're not going to want to bring. Like, I only find the lower rarity cards, unless they bring a truly unique active skill or there are lots of killers, are not going to be helpful. And in their pixel form, that kind of accomplishes it. They get their double physical killer. They have 3 skill boosts. They have physical killer latents options. They can get an attack well above 80%. They have solid base attack. You're just a physical killing damage solution. Again, the value comes down to what other physical killers do you have in your monster box. Takuma has the ability to reduce damage by 100% for a single turn. Like I said, it might be helpful in weird cases. I don't think it's going to be that helpful. You do have 4 skill boosts, but you're not bringing anything else meaningful to the team. In their second player color, they have triple machine killer. So there we go. You kill machine spawns, you can use machine killer latents. And if they had better weighted stats and just better awakenings and a kit overall, they could have been used for sure realm. But in the way he's currently made, you're not going to be able to justify bringing him because he doesn't offer anything else. Those are comically low weighted stats, terrible attack, terrible health, well, okay health I should say, and no RCV. Again, you're just going to be a machine killing solution for farming or ranking dungeons. Their pixel form offers potentially more damage output against machines. Potentially, I think. Maybe my math is wrong, but I'd rather just take their third player color and one combo my way to victory. For Billy Kane, which is the final card in this event, I remember he's the final card. In their base form, they have double attacker killer, and they can get a super skill boost or a super blind 7 combo if they're super awakening, and they can use attacker killer latents. I'm an attacker killer solution. Value hinges on whether or not you have other attacker killer solutions in your monster box. Second player color, you're just a generic damage card. Nothing is being accomplished that your other cards can do better. Finally, in their pixel form, this is the form that I'm going to be pursuing if I roll Billy Kane, just because I have other attacker killer solutions, and it's because this active skill is unique. The outermost orbs on the board are converted to fire, and then a column of heart orbs are spawned. Second from the left. So you would get 6, 6, 3, so that's 18 fire orbs made, minus, is it 16? I can't count. 6, 6, 3, 3, 12, 18. 18 minus the 2 where the heart column takes over. You'd have 16 fire orbs and 5 heart orbs made. I don't know how my math is so bad here in typing. I'll change that later. But on a 6x5 board, you get many fire orbs, some heart orbs. It can be used for farming purposes. It's unique. It's different. We can't really replicate that elsewhere. You could use it for like a VDP plus a bunch of other combos. You could use it as a way to get a row one turn and a row for the subsequent turns. Lots of interesting things you could possibly do, and just because of that novelty and uniqueness is why I feel like that's his coolest form. So, do I plan on rolling? I do not plan on rolling within the King of Fighters event because 82 0.5% of the chance to be very sad are not good odds for me. If I am truly gung-ho on the cards, which I am interested in, I might monster exchange for Leona or Iori, perhaps. Like, I feel like they can add depth to my monster box for rainbow damage solutions, but I'll obviously have to keep playing and tinkering around to see if that pans out. But for my dream rolls, I kind of spoiled it. I want to get a Leona because she has such high damage output, a tremendously valuable active skill for Share Realm. It will help populate my rainbow box because I actually am missing many of the stronger rainbow subs at this point in time, so she will definitely help fill in those gaps. And for my dream 5-star card, none of them are truly that exciting. I don't want any of them, but if I were to get one, I'd like to have Billy Kane because, like I said, that active skill is unique. Like, maybe I'll find a way to use it, but I can't replicate that elsewhere, so just the novelty of it is helpful, and I have more than enough killer solutions for the different typings within my monster box already. So, in conclusion, the King of Fighters event is a terribly top-heavy affair. As you can tell if you watch this whole video, I spent infinitely more time talking about the higher rarity cards. But at the same time, it's the bottom rarity cards that comprise the vast majority of the rolls, and they are sadly all lackluster. A modestly well-developed monster box won't gain value from them. So if you are wanting to acquire any of the spicier top rarity cards, monster exchanging will be the way to go. With that being said, let me know what you think about this event in the comments below. Do you think it's worth rolling? And if you did roll, how well did you do? Or are you going to be taking a more monster exchanging route, or just abstaining as a whole? Either way, hopefully you'll have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.